Alright, so, I should take this out. There's nobody in the room but me. Be okay. So forms of linear equations. So really it's a slope-intercept form, point-slope form. This is our key for today. Slope-intercept form you've probably seen 100 times. It's not too bad. Point-slope form sort of scares some kids away. So that's what we're going to practice. So questions are all going to be Riemann equations, slope-intercept form. And it's either going to give you 2 points or it's going to give you slope and a point. So let's look at how we can answer it in either situation. So if it doesn't tell you the slope, it gives you 2 points, we would use our slope formula. If you remember from yesterday, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and then we just label our points. No, that's an x. x2, y2. Okay. So we would say 10 minus negative 6 over x2 is negative 4 minus 0. Okay. So m, that's what m equals. 10 minus negative 6 is the same as 10 plus positive 6, so that's 16. Negative 4 minus 0 is negative 4. So the whole thing would simplify to negative 4. Okay, so that's our slope. That's m. So now there's 2 ways we can do this. One way is really easy, but it will only work for some questions. One way is a little bit more work, but it'll work for every question. So let's do the slow way, and then we'll show you the cheap way to do this one. Okay, so once we have slope and we have a point, right, we actually have multiple points to choose from, we can put it into point-slope form, which is, actually, let me, hold on, give me a minute. Okay, this is locked, so I can make this a little bit smaller so I have more room to work. I'm going to try to make this a little bit smaller. Okay, because we already know what that is. So I'm going to write my formula for point slope. This is a good formula to have memorized. It's not that difficult. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And then I'm going to pick one of my 2 points. Ideally, you'd pick one with a 0 in it, because it's easier to do math with 0, but just for fun, let's do this negative 410, so we can see like the hardest way possible we could do this one. So we're going to say y, which is just a letter, minus the y we picked was 10. The slope we said was negative 4. X is just a letter, and then minus, what did we say, negative 4. Okay, and then before we move on, we can say, again, since this is minus a negative, we can change that to adding a positive. And once we get here, if we want to convert from point slope to slope-intercept form, it's the same steps each time. So we're always going to distribute next. So we're going to multiply everything on the right by the slope. So the left side stays, or is left alone for now, y minus 10 equals, so we distribute this out, so it's going to be negative 4x minus 16. Okay, and then the second step is always going to be to bring over this number on the left-hand side. So we do plus 10 to both sides. And that gives us y equals negative 4x minus 6. Okay, so if you're using point-slope form, it's always the same 2 steps to get it to slope-intercept form. You're going to distribute to get rid of the parentheses, and then you're going to bring whatever number is on the left-hand side, you bring it over to the right. And then you should always, I don't know why you wouldn't, you would always be left with y equals mx plus b. Okay, then I said there's an easier way to do this. And we know that all we needed, because we had the slope, all we needed was the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is just the value of y when x equals 0. And if we look, one of our points here was 0, negative 6. So that was the y-intercept right there. So if you get a point that's 0, comma, whatever, we don't need to do all of this because the y-intercept is being given to us. So once we had this number, so we had negative 6 and then we had negative 4, you notice those were the 2 numbers we needed in our final answer. Okay, so you don't have to do all this step on every question. As long as you're able to look at it and see, is there any way I can simplify this? Is there a quick way to get through this? It's not always going to be the case, but on the questions today, a lot of them, it is the case. So make sure you think or do the work. Either way, it's up to you. All right, our second one is when we have to use slope-intercept. It just gives us slope and a point. So that should always come to you, because it won't always say point-slope form. Right, but as soon as you see, oh, I've got a slope and I've got a point, you should be like, oh, I have a formula that has slope and a point in it. Okay, so write it down. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Okay, y is just a number. y1, we only have 1 point here, so we have to use that one. So y minus 3 equals 1/2. X minus, we only have one x value, that's 2. To make sure you do this right, since we're subtracting on both parts of our equation here, what it looks like when you write it out, the signs will always be the opposite of the original point. So just be mindful that really this is the only place you're likely to make a mistake, is writing it out. Because they're both minuses, and sometimes, you know, just it slips your mind. You put the wrong sign, and then all your math is wrong. All right, we said after that, we're always going to distribute to get rid of the parentheses. So y minus 3, half of x is just half of x. Half of -2 is -1. And then the second step, we want to get rid of this number next to y. So we do +3 to both sides. We get y equals 1/2 x. -1 plus 3 is +2. There you go, point-slope form. Piece of cake, right? Substitute your values. Distribute to get rid of the parentheses. Get y by itself. And then you'll always be left with slope-intercept form. And there you go. If you got questions, let me know on Canvas. Send me a message.